So it's been a while, but I wanted to go back to my old stomping grounds of JJK, also known as Jujutsu Kaisen, which, while the manga has been finished and a lot of people find the ending to be unsatisfactory, anybody that happens to lay eyes upon it, from the perfected imagery to the just sheer explosiveness of the colors and artistic styles from the animators showing through and through, to the point where so many fights, after already being dropped in an episode, being remastered later on. The show is polarizing and reaches a level of peak in some people's eyes that is very hard to obtain in one season, 2 seasons, or let alone at any point in any show beyond one episode perhaps, or one particular fight where the animation is just off the charts. I'm talking about you, Invincible fans, by the way. So with that in mind, I wanted to go ahead and cover some of the information that we found in a recent Q&A session that Gege Akutami participated in at a JJK event in Tokyo within the past few days. The main topic being his original plans for Gojo's ending. Now, this makes it seem like Gojo was going to die right off the bat, and it was a guarantee from when he started writing. And to a certain extent, that is true. But there's a little bit more information behind that one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and join the Patreon. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a deep dive. So as we know, Gojo Satoru was the most popular character just because he's so OP, he's so overpowered, he's so silly at the same time, and if he really wanted to be a villain, he would be a massive annoyance to anybody that would have to face him in the battlefield. However, spoiler alert, for those that didn't already know, even though it got thrown in front of our eyes by every spoiler possible, Gojo dies, and it's in a unsatisfactory way. Gojo gets split in half by the world cutting slash by Sukuna. Now this happens after he takes down Mahoraga, and we are told by Gege during this particular Q&A session that the only reason Gojo ended up dying to Sukuna was because he let his guard down. Which, when you really think about it, is crazy to say considering how overpowered he was, but the reverse curse technique, and he said that Toji should have cut his head off if he really wanted to do him in. Now, fast forward later on down when he's an instructor at JJK High, and you have a world where he is a lackadaisical, goofy, fun-loving individual that is also very clearly shown to be overpowered beyond the imaginations of his students and anybody else on his side of the boundary. Many people may find him annoying, many people may find him to be extremely irritating, but one thing they will never disagree with is the fact that he is the strongest sorcerer of today, or was, depending on how you look at it. The reason why this particular answer in the Q&A strikes so many people with a certain level of irritation that cannot really be put into words is for the sheer fact that you understand his death was totally preventable. And for him to be the fan favorite character in the show just because of his demeanor, but also his sheer power and control over every situation, you still have to respect the fact that, as irritating as it is, it makes sense. Again, when he let down his guard against Toji, that was the result, near death for him. And as a result, in this situation, when he ended up beating Mahoraga and felt a certain surge of confidence and became a little bit more arrogant than he should have, it was because he believed that Sukuna had nothing else to answer his infinity with. However, as we know, through the use of binding vows, he was able to create a world-cutting slash that would end up splitting Gojo in two, which became a very strong meme in the community for a long time. Something that I also wanted to go back and touch on was the idea that he was always going to die. Now, there's two ways to look at it. In an article recapping the entirety of the Q&A, it was quoted saying, additionally, Gege also said in the past that his plans for the series end were for either one character out of the 4 to die, or for only one to survive the series. This implies that one character that was supposed to die was always going to be Gojo. Even in a scenario where only one survivor remained, Gojo was also destined to die. Now, we can thank the thousands of people that were harassing Gege online, along with the Shonen Jump deadlines and the issues just across social media, for the way he elected to end the series in ways that he personally probably would have preferred to do otherwise. However, we can assume by this statement that naturally Gojo was more than likely going to be the odd man out regardless of whatever ended up occurring. Naturally, if all but one of them died, then we can assume that Yuji is the one that ends up surviving because Sukuna again left his body in order to take control of Megumi, and we already to a certain extent assumed that Nobara had already cashed in her chips and she was no more. So again, it stands to reason that in the event that only one of them survived, as strong as Gojo tends to be, it wouldn't really be a full circle moment of him passing on his strength and his knowledge and his understanding to his students if he survived and all his students died. Therefore, it would have to be one of his students that made it, which again would imply that, well, Gojo is no more. Obviously, with Gojo being so overpowered and everybody respecting him as that, he became a very powerful plot point in and of himself, and to the tune of the fact that he would be too overpowered in the way that it takes a large number of other characters to fill in the gap that he created. When he was fighting against Sukuna, he was doing the bulk of everything. He was somebody where you guys were so underneath his level, just get out of the way and let Gojo cook. And that's what they did. However, again, his arrogance was the thing that Gege said ultimately got to him. He thought that he was invincible after he defeated Mahoraga, and surprise, surprise, world cutting slash in the midsection, you are now Go/Joe. 2 syllables. All in all, this doesn't necessarily surprise me. I kind of felt like Gojo would have had to go, and I feel like the majority of the community understood that he was going to be put into a very periled state, even way back when we saw him getting locked in the prison realm. It just made sense that some way or another he was going to end up being removed from the story in order to allow his students to shine forth and show that he actually reached his ultimate goal of influencing that next stage of Jujutsu sorcerers that would end up carrying the mantle in his eventual absence, whether it be him dying now against Sukuna, or later on down the road, whether it be old age or just a later fight with a stronger enemy. Because as we know, the curses and opponents became stronger as a result of Gojo merely being born into the world when he was. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, I'm interested to hear your opinions. Do you still mourn Gojo, or do you think that Gege's methods may have been a little bit interesting, but ultimately they make sense? I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can below the video, and in return, if you could be so gracious, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.